Hello friends, this is the last lecture of ancient Indian history. After this, I will start medieval Indian history. Now let's start this lecture, temple architecture. Before starting temple architecture, I want to give introduction of Silp Shastra. There are two important shastra that is related to construction of building or sculpture. One is Vastu Shastra. Vastu Shastra is related to construction of building, or it is known as construction science. Then another one is Silp Shastra. Silp Shastra is related to sculpture design, sculpture manufacturing, and because of it, it is known as sculpture science. Silp Shastra. Silp Shastra is umbrella term for numerous Hindu texts that deals with art, craft, design, and standard. So it is not a single book, but collection of book that defines the rule of uh, designing sculpture or manufacturing sculpture. In ancient times, Silp Shastra acted as a manual for temple sculpture design. Silk arts also include pottery, mural painting or painting, statue, carpentry, jewelry, textile, and many more things. But neither Silp Shastra nor Vastu Shastra define temple architecture division. We don't find mention of Nagar, Vesara, or Dravidian style in Silp Shastra or Vastu Shastra. It was mentioned by historians. This division was mentioned by historians. So, temple architecture. There are three important temple architecture. One is Nagar style, another one is Vesara style, then third one is Dravid or Chola style. The Nagar style temple architecture developed from Gupta temple architecture, and it was further divided into three sub school. One is Solanki school or Solanki style temple architecture in Gujarat region, then Khajuraho style temple architecture in MP region, and then Odisha temple architecture in Odisha region. And Vesara style temple architecture was developed in Deccan region, mainly in Karnataka. Then Dravidian or Chola style temple architecture. It was evolved or developed from Pallava style temple architecture. And you can see the Vesara style temple architecture developed from 680 to 1300 AD. And whereas Dravidian style temple architecture developed from 850 AD to 1070 AD. So Vesara style temple architecture evolved or developed earlier than Dravidian style temple architecture. Apart from these three important temple architecture, we have some other temple architecture also. That is Pala and Sena style temple architecture, then Hoysala style temple architecture, then Vijayanagar style temple architecture, then Naika style temple architecture. Pala and Sena school developed from 800 AD to 1200 AD. Hoysala style temple architecture developed around 1050 AD to 13, uh, 1355 AD. Then Vijayanagar style temple architecture developed from 1336 to 1646 AD. And Nayaka style temple architecture developed after Vijayanagar temple style architecture. It developed from 15th to 18th century AD. Temple. So in this slide, I will tell the basic components of temple. uh, Temple or temple architecture. One is sanctum sanctorum or garbhagriha. It was core area of temple where main deity is placed. Then second one is sikhar or viman. Uh, it was upraised structure above sanctum sanctorum or garbhagriha. In North India, we call it sikhar, and in South India, we call it viman. Then third one is ambulatory passage around sanctum sanctorum for parikrama of main deity. Then mandapa is portico hall to accommodate large number of worshippers. Then entrance gateway. Evolution of temple architecture. So in starting we have very basic temple, and over the time it evolved into a well designed temple architecture. So in left side you can see a basic temple, uh, and on right side you can see well designed temple architecture. So how this evolution happened we will see, in mobile developed into different stages: 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. So same as mobile evolution, temple evolved into different stages. And the evolved temple, the main components of evolved temple is pillared entrance, then upraised platform or jakti, mandapa, ambulatory passage, sanctum sanctorum or garbhagri where the main deity placed, and above the garbhagri we found shikhar. Stages of temple architecture in North India or Gupta age. The Nagar style temple architecture um, evolved from the Gupta temple architecture. So the bedrock of Nagar style temple architecture developed during Gupta time period in five stages. First stage, there was low platform temple, then sanctum sanctorum with square base, then flat roof and pillar entrance. And the example of first stage temple architecture is Sanchi Temple 17 in MP. It was built around 5th century AD. Second stage of evolution of temple architecture. In this stage, we found upraised platform and some temple with two stories temple. Sanctum sanctorum with square base, flat roof, pillar entrance, and we found addition of ambulatory passage in second stage in the evolution of in the second stage of the evolution of temple architecture. Ambulatory passage is Pradikshina Path. The example of second stage temple architecture is Parvati Temple in MP, built around 5th century AD. So, what was the changes happened from previous stage? I mentioned in red color. So, in second stage, we found upraised platform and ambulatory passage in addition to first stage. Then in third stage, we found upraised platform, sanctum sanctorum with square base, small sikhar, mandapas, pillar entrance, ambulatory passage or pradikshina path, panchayat and Panchayatan style is addition of four small temple around main temple. Oh, the example of third stage temple architecture is the Sautar temple at Devgarh, UP. It was built around 6th century AD. Then the fourth stage we found upraised platform, sanctum sanctorum with rectangular base. In earlier three stages, the sanctum sanctorum was square base, but in fourth stage the sanctum sanctorum was with rectangular base. Small sikhar, mandapas, pillar entrance, ambulatory passage or pradikshina path, panchayatan style. The example of fourth stage temple architecture is their temple at Solapur. It was the um, it was the temple built by Satvana ruler in 3rd century AD, but later it was converted to Hindu temple in 6th century AD. Fifth stage, upraised platform, sanctum sanctorum with circular base, small sikhar, mandapas, pillar entrance, ambulatory passage, pradikshinapat or panchayatan style. The example of fifth stage temple architecture is Maniyar Mutt at Rajgir. So we have first stage where we have very basic temple, sanctum sanctorum with square base, and there was no sikhar, it was flat roof, and there was pillar entrance, and platform was also low. In second stage, we changed it to upraised platform, and we added ambulatory passage around the sanctum sanctorum. In third stage, we change the flat roof to sikhar, a small sikhar. Then we also added mandapa in third stage and panchayatan style. In fourth stage, everything is common with third stage, but we change the shape of sanctum sanctorum from square base to rectangular base. And in fifth stage, We changed the shape of sanctum sanctorum from rectangular base to circular base. Nagar school or Nagar style temple architecture. The characteristic of Nagar style temple architectures are uh, a raised platform, also known as Jakti, then pillared entrance hall. We don't found any temple boundary wall in Nagar style temple architecture. Large assembly hall or mandapa and ambulatory passage around sanctum sanctorum. Also, we found Panchayatan style temple in Nagar school temple architecture. And in Nagar style temple architecture, we we did not we did not find any water tank generally. So in Nagar school, the Sikhar is divided into three different type. One is Latina or Rekha Prasad, and second one is Pams, Pamsana, then third one is Vallabi. Latina or Rekha Prasad. It is a square base with inward slope toward top. So the first figure, the topmost figure, you can see a square base with slope moving toward top. Then second one is Pamsana. It was broader base with shorter in height with upward slope. So you can see the middle one figure. It was same like uh, it was similar to Rekha Prasad or Latina one, but the base was more broader and the height is shorter. So the slope was upward. Then Vallabi. In Vallabi, there is rectangular base with roof rising into vaulted chamber. So you can see the bottom one figure. This one was Vallabi Sikhar. And on Sikhar, there is Amlak, there is horizontal disc at the top of Sikhar, and it was known as Amlak. And at the top of Amlak, we found spherical structure that is known as Kalas. Nagar school temple architecture. First one is Solanki style and also known as Maru Gurjar style, developed in Gujarat and Rajasthan region. And it was developed under the patronage of Solanki ruler. And here we found the temple walls were plain, but entrance gateway were decorative. Uh, Water tanks in temple premises and small temples on steps of water tank. So earlier I said no water tank in Nagar school temple architecture, but in Solanki style temple architecture we found water tank within the temple premises. And it was majorly east facing temple uh, and built from sandstone, marble or basalt. Khajuraho style temple architecture developed in MP region, and it was developed under the patronage of Chandela rulers. And in this, both interior and exterior walls are lavishly decorated, and the decoration was erotic in nature. And in Khajuraho style temple architecture, we there is Ardha Mandapa in addition to Mandapa. In some temple, there is space between Mandapa and Sanctum Sanctorum, and it is known as Antral. So Antral was part of Khajuraho style temple architecture. Antral and Ardha Mandapa are a part of Khajuraho style temple architecture. Then most of the temple of Khajuraho style temple architecture were north and east facing temple and with Panchayatan style. Third sub school of Nagar school temple architecture was Odisha school. In this school, Sikhar was vertical until the top where it sharply turned inwards. Uh, plain interior wall, but lavishly decorated exterior wall. Uh, no pillar entrance, iron girders to support roof. Mandapa in Odisha style temple architecture, Mandapa was known as Jagmohan. And in this style, we also found Nat Mandir. Nat Mandir was dancing hall, then Bhog Mandir. Bhog Mandir was offering hall. And in Nagar style temple architecture, we learn three different type of sikhar. In Odisha school, again we found three different type of sikhar. One is Rekha Pida or Rekha Dula, and it was tallest one among the three division of Odisha style sikhar. Tall state sikhar on the top of sanctum sanctorum. So you can see in the figure, the Rekha Dula, the sikhar was the shikhar was rising vertically, and at the top it sharply turns inward. Then second one is Pida Dula. It was square base pyramid shaped shikhar. So you can see in the figure it was when you see from one side, you will find it is like triangle. So it was pyramidal structure, Pida Dula. Then third one is Kha- Khakra Dula, and Khakra Dula was rectangular base with pyramid truncated shikhar. So you can see in the figure, it looks like Vallabi shikhar of Nagar style temple architecture, but this one is more like pyramid truncated structure. Then in Odisha style temple architecture, we found boundary walls like Dravidian style temple architecture. So generally in Nagar style temple architecture, there was no boundary wall, but in Odisha style, there is boundary wall around the temple architecture. So you need to remember the difference between Solanki, Khajuraho, and Odisha style temple architecture. In Solanki, the temple wall and pillar were plain in nature, but in Khajuraho, both temple wall, both interior and exterior, lavishly decorated. But in Odisha school, exterior walls were decorated, but interior were plain. In Solanki school, we found water tank. In Khajuraho and Odisha, we don't. There is no water tank. And regarding entrance, regarding boundary wall, in Odisha style temple architecture, there is boundary wall, but in Solanki and Khajuraho style, there is no boundary wall, as mentioned in Nagar style temple architecture. Vesara is Vesara style of temple architecture. The Vesara temple architecture developed in Deccan region mainly by three dynasties: Chalukya of Vatapi from 500 AD to 750 AD, then Rashtrakuta from 750 AD to 980 AD, and then Hoysala from 1000 AD to uh, 1300 AD. And also we found some contribution of Chalukya of Kalyani or Western Chalukya. Important location of Vesara style temple architectures are Ayol, Pattadkal and Badami. The temple built by Chalukya rulers were Virupach temple at Pattadkal, Rameswara temple at Ellora, Ladakkan and Durga temple at Ayur. Then temple built by Rashtrakuta was Kailash temple at Ellora. Uh, Hoysala, I forget to mention temple built by Hoysala. I will write down in comment section. Although Vesara style temple architecture developed prior to Dravidian style temple architecture, but historian still misinterpreted the Vesara style temple architecture as mixed of Nagar and Dravidian architecture because Some early South Indian texts mentioned it as the mixed style temple architecture that is built by mixing the feature of Nagar and Dravidian style. But the fact was, Vesara style temple architecture developed earlier to Dravidian style temple architecture. So Vesara style is a new style that emerged from Nagar style, and some aspect of Vesara style were used in Dravidian style temple architecture. So it was not the Vesara style temple architecture that copied from Dravidian style, it was Dravidian style temple architecture that copied the features of Vesara style temple architecture. The features of Vesara style temple um, architecture are complex ground plane including star shape, indigenous decoration on pillar and temple wall, Sikhar, mixed characteristic of Nagar Sikhar and Dravidian pyramidal Viman. So, in unique feature, in mains, sometimes they ask to write unique feature of Vesla style temple architecture, how it is unique from Nagar style and Dravidian style. So in that you can write complex ground plane, then indigenous decoration on pillar and temple wall, and uh, you can find the although Sikhar was not completely unique, it was mixed feature of Nagar and Dravidian, but it evolved earlier than Dravidian style. So you can write in unique feature. Also, you can mention that some temple of Vesara style temple architecture has has water tank within temple premises, but some does not have. In this slide, I shown the difference between Nagar style temple architecture and Dravidian style temple architecture. The topmost figure is related to Nagar style temple architecture, and bottom one is related to Dravidian style temple architecture. So, in Nagar style temple architecture, the entrance hall is connected to mandapa, no boundary wall, and the Sikhar was curvy one. It was in curved shape. Then Amlak and then Kalas, and we also found Sikhar on mandapa in Nagar style temple architecture. But in Dravidian style temple architecture, there is boundary wall and the entrance on the entrance gateway there was Gopuram, a tall structure, and it was known as Gopuram. Then Mandapa, and there is no Sikhar on Mandapa, and on the top of Garbhagriha we found there is Viman. Instead of Sikhar, we call Viman in Dravidian style temple architecture, and it was in pyramidal shape, not in curve shape. It is in pyramidal shape. Then on the top of Viman, we found Sikhar, same as colors in Nagar style temple architecture. So the evolution of Dravidian temple architecture happened into happened into in four phases during the Pallava dynasty. So stage one or Mahendravarman group. So in this we define the evolution from rock cut cave temples. In Nagar style, we define the evolution from a basic temple to well-designed temple, but in Dravidian style, we define the evolution from rock cut temple to well-designed temple. So stage one is Mahendravarman group. In this stage, rock cut temple known as Mandapa. The whole temple is known as Mandapa. Nagar is in Nagar style, Mandapa was assembly hall. Stage 2 or Narsimha group. Decorated rock cut temple like in Rath shape Mandapas. The largest Rath belongs to Dharmraj Rath and the smallest Rath belongs to Draupadi Rath. Stage 3 is Rajsimha group or Narasimhavarman II group. And in this phase, development of real structure temple started. Then stage 4, small size structural temple. So these four stages finally led to the development of Dravidian temple architecture by Chola dynasty. Dravidian temple architecture. Temple was guarded by the boundary wall with an entrance gate. Um, Water tank within the boundary wall. Gopuram was big size structure above the entrance gateway. Then Viman was pyramidal structure in geometrical order on the top of Sanctum Sanctorum. In Nagar style temple architecture, there is Sikhar instead of Viman, and it was curvy structure. Uh, and in Dravidian style temple architecture, um, Sikhar was Sikhar was structure placed on the top of Viman. In Nagar style, it was Kalas. We also found Dwarpala at the entrance of Sanctum Sanctorum in Dravidian style temple architecture. And in Dravidian style temple architecture, subsidiary shrines can be within the main tower or outside the main tower, but no Viman on subsidiary shrine. Only one Viman on the main shrine, and it was known as Viman. Different plane shapes. The The Dravidian style temple architecture plane shape is divided into five different plane shape. By mean plane shape, what will be the ground plan of temple temple design? So one is Kuta or Chatursra. It was square shape. Then second one is Sala or Ayatsra. Ayatsra is rectangular shaped. Then Gajaprishtha or Vrittayata. It was elliptical shape. Then Vritta is circular. Then Ast- Astasra. Astra was octagonal shape. Pala and Sena temple architecture. This architecture developed in Bengal region under the patronage of Pala rulers and Sena rulers from 8th century AD to 12th century AD. Pala were Buddhist followers and Sena were Hindu followers. So we find influence of both Hindu and Buddhist religion on Pala and Sena temple architecture. And in this school we found there was curve or sloping roof, and it was known as Bangla roof. So Bangla roof is important feature of Pala and Sena temple architecture. Tall and curving Sikhar brick were used in temple architecture. So most of the temple architecture we found they were majorly built by stone, but in Pala and Sena temple architecture, temples were built by bricks. Hoysala temple architecture. This architecture with distinct style developed in Karnataka region under the patronage of Hoysala rulers from 1050 AD to 1300 AD. Important location of Hoysala temple architectures are Belur, Halibid and Sringeri. And upraised platform were known as Jakti, multiple shrines around Mandapa. So there was multiple main deities and subsidiary shrine around main shrine. Sikhars were interconnected with horizontal line. As there are multiple shrine, so there are multiple Sikhar, and it was interconnected with horizontal line. Ground plane was star shape or stellate. Card wall, both interior and exterior. So we found there was carving on the wall on the temple wall, both interior wall and exterior wall. And temple was also decorated with sculptures. Temple wall and stairs in zigzag pattern, and soft stone was used for manufacturing of for construction of Hoysala temple architecture, Vijayanagar temple architecture. It developed under the patronage of Vijayanagar kingdom from 1300 35 AD to 1565 AD. In this architecture, we find a combination of Chola, Hoysala, and Vesara architecture and some Indo-Islamic design. A highly decorated wall with carving and geometric pattern. Gopuram on all sides of temple. Earlier temple architecture, mainly in Dravidian, Gopuram was only on the one side of temple, one side of the temple premises, and it was on the entrance gateway. But in Vijayanagar temple is architecture, Gopuram was all, there was Gopuram on all sides of temple. Temple pillars were decorated with yali. Yali was mythical horse. More than one mandapa with central mandapa as Kalyan Mandapa. So Kalyan Mandapa is uh, feature of Vijayanagar temple architecture. Higher boundary walls to protect the temple from Islamic attack. So in Vijayanagar temple architecture, the boundary wall were very high than Dravidian and other temple architecture. Nayaka temple architecture or Madurai architecture. It developed from 16th to 18th century AD under the patronage of Nayaka rulers. Uh, it has the combined feature of Chola or Dravidian architecture plus Islamic influence. Huge corridor at the entrance and around Sanctum Sanctorum with and we we found huge corridor at entrance and huge corridor at around Sanctum Sanctorum, and the ambulatory passage was roofed in Nika style temple architecture. In this temple architecture, we found the Gopuram was very large. Largest size of Gopuram was Meenakshi Temple at Madurai. It was example of Nika style temple architecture. The temple walls were decorated with carvings. Devadasi system. Uh, with with the evolution of temple, a, a new system emerged known as Devadasi. In Devadasi, female were attached to temple and their job is to serve the temple or main deity of that temple. So Devdasi were also known as Jogini, Venkatasini, Nelis, Muralis, Teradian, Devar Adigalar in Chola time in Chola dynasty, Basivi in Karnataka region, Matangi in Maharashtra region, Kalavantin in Goa region, Maharis in Odisha, and Jakkulas in Andhra Pradesh region. Regarding history of Devdasi system, Amrapali, she was contemporary to Buddha and she was the first woman to declare Nagar Vadhu by a king. And Nagar Vadhu was similar system to Devdasi, but at that time there was no temple construction or no temple, so it was dancer uh, attached to ro- royal place or dancer attached to royal place. Then temple dancer. We found mention of temple dancer in uh, Meghdut written by Kalidas. So Devdasi, Devdasi is more than just temple dancer. They they used to live in temple premises, but temple dancer they just came to dance and then they can live. So Devdasi is more than just temple dancer. The earliest reference to Devdasi system was found in Kesari dynasty of South India, and it was in 6th century AD. And Devdasi in Chola Empire. So in Chola Empire, Devdasi were known as Devar Adigalar, servant to God. And in Chola Empire, there was marriage ceremony um, of Devdasi and temple deity, and it was known as Pothu Kattu. And Nattuvanars were the orchestra player during the performance of Devdasi in Chola dynasty. From 6th to 13th century AD, Devdasi had high dignity in the society. They get royal patronage. But with the rise of Islamic rule in India, the Devdasi lost their respect in society from 13th century onward. And their condition deteriorated with time from 13th century AD onwards. The Devdasi system led to the evolution of classical Indian music and dance form. We will see in medieval India regarding this. The ban on Devdasi system started from colonial time with Bombay Devdasi Protection Act 1934. So this was all about temple architecture and Devdasi system. And this is the end of lecture. Thank you.